Hello and welcome to Cliff Reviews Art House. This time I'm reviewing a series of short films, Self-Portrait as a Coffee Pot, directed by William Kentridge. This really provoked a lot of different feelings for me. Kentridge is an artist and I know some of his work. I really like the work that I've seen, so there were aspects of this self-portrait that I really enjoyed. At the same time, I found a lot of it so pretentious, so self-indulgent, asking so much of me with so little reward, infuriating. So the first question is, what is this work? It's been streamed on Mubi in the UK and it's described as a TV series with 9 episodes. I'm not sure that it makes sense calling it a TV series. I think it's more like 9 short films. And it's kind of like a documentary as well. In total, the screen time is 4 hours, 40 minutes. Now, this has been screened in several versions. It was screened as a 110-minute version of 3 of the episodes at the Toronto International Film Festival. It was also screened as a 3-day continuous screening, all 10 films, at a New York art gallery. On Mubi, it's presented as a TV series with 9 episodes. So I became aware of Kentridge's work in 2015. He had a solo show at the Marion Goodman Gallery in London called More Sweetly Play the Dance, which was an 8-screen curved audio-visual installation. It wasn't 360 degrees, but you could sit inside it and be surrounded by the screens. On the screens was a parade, a kind of procession, with a mix of people, puppets, models, silhouettes. The music was really good. I've seen other bits and pieces and I really like his work. So I was looking forward to what looked like a documentary. Now, I'm not sure whether it is a documentary or whether it's an artwork. I think it's probably a bit of both. It does document his creative process, but there's also a large performance element to it. On the documenting side, this was really interesting. I really enjoyed seeing his creative process, seeing how he does his hand-drawn animations, his collage, the sculptures, the models. We see clips from the work I saw in London. I loved seeing his process. But as to the performance elements, these were pretentious and quite boring, really, and really self-indulgent. Especially the bits when he's speaking to himself, and there's a lot of this. We have 2 versions of him on the screen. It just doesn't work. It's supposed to be funny, I think, but I didn't laugh once. Some of it was almost clowning, and I just found this a bit cringeworthy. This device of him speaking to himself, he uses it so much, and I found it quite frustrating. There'd be something interesting, and then it would go back into one of these conversations with himself. It really just didn't work for me. Perhaps this is a little bit harsh. Most of this was made during COVID, and it's an understandable experiment in a time when we were so restricted. It's an attempt to still be creative during lockdown. But no, for me, this should never have been shown to anyone else. After watching 1 episode, I really felt like giving up on it. But this is where my OCD comes in useful sometimes. I find it very hard to stop watching something that I've started, even if it is 4.5 hours. So I persevered with it and watched it all in about 3 sittings on the same day. So it's definitely not all negative. There were some things that I really liked. Some of the drawings are fantastic, as well as some of the animations. His artwork is really good. In episode 2, there was an effect with a book page turning very quickly and an animation of him and a woman on the page. I really liked this. Another work I liked was a kind of 3D sculpture of a typewriter made up from apparently random black bits of paper. This was at the end of episode 5. Prior to this, he'd had a discussion with himself about fragments and a moment of clarity. I did find this an interesting conversation because it's about an artwork that we're actually seeing being made. The films are actually at their best when he's collaborating with others. There's a collaboration with a pianist and a singer where they're creating some music and text related to economy and mining in South Africa. The South African music is made by professionals and it's improvised and it's mixed with his drawings, and this is a really good combination. I think the episode I enjoyed most was episode 6, which was called The Paradoxes of Colonialism, where he worked with some actors and they were reading texts. They were much better actors than him. Again, this works really well because his images are fabulous. One thing I did wonder, we see him working a lot with black actors and singers. I did just wonder if there's a white privilege issue here. The white artist in charge, everyone else black. I'm absolutely not accusing Kentridge of any form of deliberate racism. I think all of his work engages with the legacy of apartheid and colonialism. He's clearly a South African artist that really cares about these issues. However, there is perhaps a broader question of who gets to tell these stories and the status of the storyteller. He definitely means well, it's not a criticism of him really. Maybe it is a case that the global visibility of his work compared to many black South African artists means that the work gets more exposure and consequently so do the issues. This may be true, but there is perhaps something sad about this. I think that this is perhaps an example of how structural and institutional racism occurs, completely unintentional, but there were a few times when it just made me feel a little bit uncomfortable. Overall, I can't really recommend this series, unless you already know you like Kentridge's work. Even then, it's a real chore. I think if this was edited down into a 90-minute documentary, it could be really interesting. As it is, it's a sprawling mess with some good bits in it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.